Hello and how you doing, folks? Yours truly, Randy Rand here. Today we talked to a good buddy of mine out of Florida, the state of Florida. His name is Chester Frazier, and what started as a conversation about a gentleman named Brian Randolph out of Detroit, Michigan, who robbed a bank to pay for his little girl's uh, eye cancer surgery. What started out as a conversation about that turned into a conversation about healthcare. And as I was continuing the interview with Chester, I quickly began to realize that this was more than just a conversation about a man robbing a bank. It became a conversation about healthcare and how in the state of Michigan, the governor out there, his name fails me right now, but the governor has failed to accept government funds from the federal government, Obamacare, to pay for Obamacare, to help them out with Obamacare, which is also known as the Affordable Care Act. This quickly became a conversation about that. And although I don't condone robbing a bank for any reason at all, nor does Chester, um, it became quite the interesting conversation. And I think you may want to listen to this because even though the subject of Obamacare is bandied about as just a talking point or even a joke in some people's minds, it's very important and it's doing a very important work for people that had no health care at all. And I think you might want to listen to this interview. Thanks. We're back. Yours truly, Randy Rand here, and I'm talking with a very good buddy of mine, Mr. Chester Frazier. Chester is out of Florida, and what we're going to do here is talk about a case out of Detroit, Michigan, or thereabouts, there in the state of Michigan. A Mr. Brian Randolph. He robbed a bank, and he gave a holdup letter to the bank teller, and asking for $20,000, and he was given $8,000, and he went on about his business, made his escape. He was caught, and as it turns out, he told the police that he robbed the bank to pay for surgery for his daughter, who has eye surgery. I certainly hope you've heard about this story, and if not, you need to look it up. You can do a Google search, Brian Randolph robs bank, and it will tell you everything you need to know. So, how you doing, Chester?
I'm doing great.
Why don't you introduce yourself there to Westchester and Dutchess County?
My name is Chester Frazier. I live in Florida now, but I'm originally from New York. I moved to Florida 7 years ago.
My first question, as I've explained it, give us your opinion about the situation.
Well, I mean, it's no right way to. It's nothing. It's no way you can right or wrong. I mean, he robbed a bank. He committed a crime, but it was immediate circumstances, which was his child's health. The healthcare system has been broken for over 100 years. The past 100 years, various presidents have tried to fix the problem. However, they've been unsuccessful. But now we have a president that's been in office for the past 6 years, and he's heading in the right direction. I mean, it's nothing perfect. It's glitches in there, but it's definitely, the healthcare system is definitely better than what it was before he took office.
Okay.
And the key component of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, was for Medicaid to cover the people that fell in the gap, that didn't qualify for any of the subsidies that was guaranteed by the federal government. And 25 out of the 50 states refused to accept the federal funds and expand Medicaid for low-income families, which this brother would have fell into, where he wouldn't have to worry about whether his insurance was going to cover the surgery for his child.
So what you're saying is that Michigan, God, I can't think of the governor out there, but he. So you're saying that Michigan is one of those states that refused to accept help from the federal government with regards to health care?
That's correct.
Wow, the things you learn when you do some research with regards to that, because I heard you say that it's a bad situation, and indeed it is. Um, do you condone people committing crime in order to survive their conditions?
I don't condone it, but I mean, I understand it because me being a parent myself, I mean, it's nothing that I wouldn't do for my child. I mean, it was a movie, but I mean, it was surrounding life events with the movie that Denzel Washington played in, where he was working and his hours got cut back, and the employer changed the insurance carrier without letting him know, and then found out that his child wasn't covered for a life-threatening procedure. I mean, this is day to day. This is real life, but that was a movie based on life events that
Yes.
it still plagues people every day.
Yeah, I saw that movie. I think it was John Q. Public or something, was it? I think it
Yes,
was.
John Q.
John Q. Yes, I saw that movie some years ago. I was on a airplane flight from somewhere. I can't remember right now. And from when the movie started, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Usually, you know how you might be on a flight or a long flight and just want to take a nap and go to sleep and just sleep. But I tell you, that was one riveting movie. And indeed, I tell you the truth, I think that movie was ahead of its time a little bit, even though it did speak to a very main concern and a very big issue, that being healthcare. I think it was ahead of its time. Now, I understand that the family's attempts to raise money initially through a GoFundMe account were unsuccessful at first. However, after the story broke about him robbing the bank and why he did it, the account raised a significant amount of money. What would you attribute this to?
Well, I would attribute that to several factors. One, I mean, we being in the society that we're in, where it's so much scams going on. I mean, people don't know which to believe, whether someone is setting up that account for what the purpose that they're actually saying that the money's going to be used for. So people are skeptical about contributing. But moment the story broke, and I mean, it was obvious why he did it, then of course the account got flooded.
Now you mentioned people's skepticism, and certainly people have their reasons for being skeptical about anybody asking for money, whether it's through a GoFundMe account or whether they're begging on the street or whether they're doing an appeal on TV. People are skeptical. And my next question kind of feeds into the reason why they're skeptical. It's been reported at thegrio.com that when officers found Mr. Brian Randolph, he had several new pairs of Gucci sneakers and Gucci bags. Given the seriousness of his daughter's condition, doesn't he risk losing any public sympathy about his situation?
I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is because what he said, the reason why he said he did it, I mean, it's not hard to find out. Only thing you have to do is just go to the hospital and confirm it, that they actually was refusing to do the procedure that was going to save his child's life.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that would take away from that. I mean, it didn't make sense for him to buy it, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's going to take away from the legitimacy of why he did it, and
Mm-hmm.
that it was actual event that was taking place.
We are speaking with Mr. Chester Frazier, a very good buddy of mine, out of Florida, and is taking some of his time today to talk about this case that's out in Detroit, Michigan, Mr. Brian Randolph, who robbed a bank, and the reason that he did it was to pay for chemotherapy for his daughter's cancer, eye cancer. And we're given a few minutes to talk about it. We both agree that he shouldn't have robbed the bank. Neither one of us condone it. But you never know. You never know. You will never know what you would do when your back is against the wall, when you're under an immense amount of pressure. And I tell you the truth, in today's economic times, there's so much uncertainty. People are, never mind trying to put your child through college. People are having a hard enough time trying to, put food on the table, pay for the roof over their heads, so forth and so on. And of course, given the situation that Mr. Randolph was in, certainly there's an immense amount of pressure. But in your opinion, what other steps could he have taken rather than rob a bank?
Well, I mean, I don't know if the social worker at the hospital reached out to the family or if they was just wanted the money and that was it and the insurance didn't cover it, because they have, in every hospital, it's set up where if it's a procedure that has to be done, like especially like chemo or radiation, that they have what they call account where they'll provide the services with expectation of being paid, providing that the family can pay them. But if they can't, then they write it off as charity at the end of the year.
And so maybe there's a possibility that somebody dropped the ball there at the hospital or through the state of Michigan, maybe.
It's a strong possibility because in today's society, if you don't know anything, people aren't telling you.
Sure.
And if you don't know the right questions to ask, and I mean, being under stress like that, only thing you're hearing is you're not covered. It's nothing that we can do for your child. That's the only thing you're hearing. And then you just seeing black. What is there left for me to do? Which leads to someone making not a wise decision on robbing a bank.
That's an awful situation. I tell you the truth, I really appreciate your wealth of knowledge with regards to the healthcare system and how things work in healthcare. You work in the healthcare system, right?
Yes, I do.
What do you do?
I'm a certified nurse assistant.
Okay, and do you in your work experience, do you see cases, say maybe where somebody's not going to rob a bank, certainly, but I'm sure you can speak about some instances where people may not have money, may not be able to afford care that they may need. That really takes its toll on the patient and their family, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
In your work experience, have you seen it where, say, a family has a loved one and they're either in your care or maybe they work at the facility where you work at, and that loved one needs a surgery or they need a treatment or they need medication, and the family is at their wit's end trying to make this happen. Whatever it needs to happen, they're trying to make it happen. What kind of struggles have you seen from families that are going through these changes?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of struggles. Like, I'll give you a good scenario. I relocated down here back in September of 2008. 2000, and I was working inside of a facility, and my wife and I were both certified nurse assistants, and we were working in the facility, and we had insurance through the employer.
Okay.
She was diagnosed with cancer, and we found out once she went to the doctor that the insurance company only covered $20,000. After $20,000, we would be 100% responsible. And thinking that Medicaid ran the same way in all the states. Come find out that Florida is different. That their Medicaid system is totally different. They had straight Medicaid, which usually is for children or pregnant mothers. But adults, they'll give them what they call a share of cost, which means if your share of cost is $1,200 a month, you have to meet $1,200 before Medicaid kicks in.
Oh my God.
So had to cut back hours just to qualify for Medicaid share of course, just for her to get the chemo and the radiation treatment. And nobody told me, had to do research. Coming to a new state, not knowing anything, and had to do research. And this is not the way it should be.
That's right.
You know, the world looks to America as the melting pot. We feed, we clothe, and we provide medical services for third world countries when we go and engage in wars. But yet, the people that aren't wealthy have to worry about how close they are to becoming bankrupt because of the money that they have to spend just for the services, or becoming homeless because a lot of people are a few paychecks away from homelessness. Homelessness has a new face. It's not like the way it used to be, like it's derelicts and stuff. There's people that works that due to no fault of their own, either their hours get cut back or their position is done away with to save money for the big corporation, and then they're homeless.
A lot of people are facing that very same possibility. Like you mentioned, the cutback in hours, or the company has downsized the employers in order to save money for the big corporation or the big company. And it's a very ugly reality. It's a very ugly truth. And, it's like you said, there's a new face of homelessness. And it could be you or me. It could be white, black. It could be Hispanic. It could be anybody. Anybody. People that may make $40,000 a year. I don't care what state you're living in. You could still be homeless making $40,000 a year, and that's insane. You know, that is completely insane. So I completely agree with your point. We're speaking with Chester Frazier, a very good buddy of mine out of Florida, and he's given us some of his time today. We're talking about the young man out there in Detroit, Brian Randolph, who robbed a bank in order to pay for his daughter's eye surgery for one eye cancer that she has, and they need to pay for the surgery, and he robbed the bank. So we're talking about it. Have you heard anything else about the story?
No, I haven't heard anything else about it.
He was to be freed on $500,000 bond. I don't know if anybody met it or not, as that is quite the hefty amount of money to get somebody out of jail. Now, I'm thinking, if he can't pay for his daughter's eye surgery, certainly he's not going to be able to come up with $500,000 or some kind of guarantee of $500,000 to get out of jail. So it's a very bad situation, and I'm going to, keep that family in my prayers. If you could, please feel free to plug anything you're involved in or your website, etc.
I'm still involved in trying to get Florida to accept the federal funds to expand Medicaid. Right now, it's 800,000 people that don't have insurance because they fall in the gap, because they refuse to expand Medicaid. They had a special session during the summer, and they just wasted our tax dollars here because they got no work done at all. They did exactly what they wanted to do, and that's to let people still suffer. And I'm also involved in restoration of rights. There's 1.2 million Floridians that lost their rights to vote, to participate in any of their children's school activities. They can't even get an apartment with their name on the lease because they're ex-felons. Florida is one of the few states that refuses to, you have to petition the governor for a clemency hearing to have your rights restored. If you commit a crime and you pay your debt to society the way it's supposed to be, you release, and you can't find jobs because you have that bar that's barring you from finding a job. It's designed for you to go back there so they can make more money off you, because the prisons down here is privatized like it is in a lot of the other states now.
Sure. Yep.
You actually can invest money in prisons at Wall Street.
Yep.
And this is just slavery in 2015.
Indeed.
If a person really wants to rehabilitate themselves and they want to go to college once they're released, they have to register as an out-of-state citizen, out-of-state resident.
Really?
Because they forfeit their right to being a resident of Florida. They could have been born and raised in Florida, lived nowhere else.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. You know, I've always considered Florida as a very conservative state. Yet, in the past two presidential elections, President Barack Obama won both states, which I saw as a mark of progress, as Florida may turn blue. But for some reason, you guys had a chance to get your governor out of office, Governor Rick Scott, and you fell short. And I was just wondering, in your opinion, why is that continuing to happen?
Well, we fell short because Charlie Crist got the nomination from the Democratic Party, and a lot of people was skeptical of him, being that he was a Republican before, and he flip-flopped on a lot of issues. And he was really the only one that had a chance on beating him, because it's never been a woman governor in the state of Florida. And that was Nan Rich was running up against him for the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
I worked closely on both of those sides.
Well, in your opinion, what's going to happen with the state of Florida? Because again, they voted for President Barack Obama twice. Okay, so that's got to be some kind of hope there. But that things, I think, need to be taken to another level. And of course, I'm just speaking as somebody who's on the outside looking in, as I don't live in Florida, but I do know that Florida went to President Barack Obama twice, and there are a lot of people that are fed up in Florida, like yourself, and they're trying to make change happen. What are the chances of that change happening, in your opinion?
Right now, I don't know of any Democrat that's gonna run for the governor in the next election, but also don't know what Republicans is gonna run up against him. This is a Republican state.
Yes.
It's only been two Democratic governors in Florida's history, and both of them has been one-term governors, and that was many years ago. But what has to happen? I mean, the only chance that we really have is we have to get control of the House and the Senate there, because that's what runs Florida. That's what runs Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we fell short at, where we couldn't get Medicaid expanded because we didn't have control of the House or the Senate. The Senate even came back and they put together a bill to expand to accept the federal funds. They were just gonna change the name. They wasn't gonna have it listed as Medicaid, but it was covering all the bases, which it still would have been good. We don't care what name they want to give it, just accept the federal funds and help these people that don't have health insurance. And when it went back to the House already said that they wasn't going to accept it anyway.
Wow.
And it's all because of who put together the health care, the restructured health care. They don't want to give the president the credit that is due to him.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that negative happens, they give him credit. Our gas is down to $2.12 a gallon for regular gas, the lowest it's been in over 12 years, but they're not giving him credit for that.
Yeah, and we can certainly do another topic about that. Uh, the way that they've obstructed this president in epic fashion, to the point to where one of the Republican politicians out of South Carolina called the president a liar on live television during the State of the Union address. So, if they're going to be as bold enough to do that, certainly it's no telling what they might do. Maybe we can get together and we can talk about that as well. So.